Another guy that kind of falls into that boat a little bit is Payton Pritchard, who,
Yeah.
again, he had a really good summer league. He was actually
Mhm.
named to the first team All Summer League team, the
Yeah.
only Celtic named to that. He left Summer League in Vegas briefly to play in a Pro-Am game, dropped 92 points, came back in time for the championship
Mhm.
game. He was playing, and here's the thing, okay? And again, I had this conversation with some other guys in Vegas uh, after the Sacramento beatdown of the Celtics in the Summer League championship game. When you see a player or hear of a player drops 92 and you're
92.
playing against that player 92, and I don't care whether it's pro am,
Look,
high school,
exactly.
92 points is 92 points. That's impressive. When you get a chance to go up against a guy like that, you ain't going to treat him the way you would any other cat who can score. You were going to give him the deluxe, we're going to treat you like your name is LeBron treatment. He got that package. Every time he damn near touched the ball, they double teamed him. They blitzed him. They did everything they could to get the ball out of his hands. And I will say this, after the game, Joe Mazzulla talked about this summer league coach for the Celtics.
Mhm.
He talked about he didn't do as good a job as he could of putting Peyton in positions to be successful. And while there may be some truth to that, there's nothing that you can do as a coach when a guy is blitzed and he doesn't respond to that blitz.
Right.
You got to put him in some different situations, but ultimately it's on the player to respond. And I just thought it was just brutal in that regard. He was 3 for 9 shooting, took 6 pointers, missed all 6 of them. He had 8 rebounds, or excuse me, had 6 assists, but he also had 6 turnovers. And for a point guard, even in summer league, to turn the ball over that much, that's brutal. You're going to struggle. Your team is going to have trouble winning. You're more likely than not going to play. Your play is going to suffer. And I do think a lot of his struggles had to do with the fact that he dropped 92. And cats
Right.
on the
He's
Kings looking
tired.
at him like,
He's gassed.
they're just like, yo, we're about to put him in the clank clank. We locking this dude
Right.
up. He ain't dropping 92 on us.
Mhm.
And so I thought that there was a different level of compete that they brought to the table. And I didn't think his teammates frankly matched that. I mean, they were getting just absolutely run out the gym.
Bless
And
you.
part of that
Yeah.
had to do with Sacramento they had better length. They had guys who again play a little bit more of a chip on their shoulder. And again, the Celtics, they never were able to meet that force head on. They were always in that game playing from behind, which is very different than what we saw in all but one of their 4 games prior to that.
Mhm.
So I'm curious about how Peyton is going to. Is he just going to brush aside what happened in that one game and be back to being a young guy on the rise, or is it going to be something that lingers with him? And I just wondered, does he have any regrets about leaving the team,
To
playing a
go.
pro-am game, and then yeah, I'm curious if he has any regrets about that.
I would hope he didn't have any regrets because when you hear something like that on national television, that a Celtics player dropped that many points on the team, you're going to be proud. You're going to look at him and say, all right, he clearly has some kind of future when it comes to scoring. Obviously, that also puts judgment on the people that were defending him, but that's neither here nor there. I don't think he should have regret though, because that does go to show the scoring that he is able to give a team. Again, not in the NBA where you have the best players in the world, but I think he needs to channel that confidence, whatever he had going on that day that empowered him to drop 92, go ahead and do it. But I also think it's one of those situations when you hear the quote, don't ever get too high, don't ever get too low. For him, his high was that pro am game, and his low, I'm sure,
Mhm.
within the last few weeks would be the summer league championship game. And I think for him, and with anything that you do, you take those two moments, those experiences, you realize how great you were at one point, but then you realize that you weren't as great, and then you find that in between where you can just bring consistent greatness. And that's what the Celtics need. That's what I'm sure Peyton Pritchard would want for himself. You think about, not to get nostalgic, but you think about the Mamba mentality with Kobe. He always wanted people to be consistently great. It wasn't about, yes, you can have a game where you're dropping such and such points, but if you can be consistently good, that's what makes great. And I think for Peyton Pritchard, if he can channel all of those emotions from those 2 games, then he would be really set when it comes to a consistently good NBA player, which obviously the Celtics want, but anyone else in the league would be happy to have him moving forward if he didn't end up having an entire career there.
Well, I can tell you right now, Quinn, I'm gonna have to push back on you a little bit and think I think he should
Yeah.
have regret. I think he should have regret because his job is to be an NBA player. We're not talking about him taking a social justice position that's unpopular.
Yeah.
We're not talking about him, going to visit his grandma who's ailing. No, we're talking about him leaving his professional basketball team to go
Hmm.
play with some slash professional slash amateur basketball players at a time when this is a critical year for his growth. I mean, think about
Yeah.
this. He's a point guard. He doesn't have the physical versatility to play more than one position. He might play some off the ball, but he's not able to play that from a physical standpoint for any sustained period of time because he's only 6 foot, 6'1", something like that. Look at this roster now. You've got Marcus Smart. You've got Schroeder. You might have Chris Dunn. Where exactly are you going to play? What can you do to best position yourself for minutes? And one of the best ways to do that is continuing to develop chemistry and strong play with your teammates. There's at least two or three guys that he played with this summer that when he's on the floor come regular season, he's going to be on the floor with them then. Developing chemistry is important this time of year. And again, him going to Portland or playing in a program, it's not going to be the be all and end all to his career or anything like that. But it's an example of when, if we're just being honest about this and keeping it real, that was not something that he needed to do. That was something he wanted to do. And he wanted to play in that program when frankly, he should have felt the need to stay with his team. But listen, it's done with, it's over with. He did not
Hmm.
play well. And that correlation between him being in the program and him not playing well, it's possible to not see there's some type of connection, even if it's a very light, lingering, loose. There's a connection nonetheless. I mean, think about it. You play 5 games, you played 4 games, only one game did you play poorly. And that was the
Yeah.
one game
That
that
actually
you
matters.
rejoined. Yeah, that actually mattered. And it was the one
Matters.
game that you had left the team prior to that and rejoined them. So I think there is a part of him that will regret, that will have some regrets about leaving for the program, even if, again, we're talking summer league, and at the end of the day, no one but me and probably 3 other people is going to remember that. But I tell
Yeah.
you, go ahead, Kwani.
No, your perspective definitely makes a lot of sense. But I was going to ask, do you think a front office person or even a coach would look at what he did as a ding against his resume?
No, I think they'll look at it as, look, he made a decision, it didn't work out. We're just going to move on. I don't think they're going to get too caught up in that. But I think it's really hard to not give it some thought because again, it seems so unlike him. I mean, this is a legitimate gym rat, a guy that stays in the gym, gets in early, leaves late, and you're thinking you love that about him. And it would be typical, it would be him to go somewhere, leave the team to play basketball.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I think
right.
that was kind of how they're looking at it. Like this is just Peyton, this isn't like, some guy, staying back in the city in LA because
Going
it's
to
his
the
birthday,
club.
not wanting to go into the club. I mean, Peyton is trying to go to the hole and drop 92.
Right.
That's what he's trying to do.
Yeah.
And so I respect that about him, but I still believe that when you are a young player and you're
Yeah.
trying to establish where you are on your roster, on your team, you need to take advantage of every opportunity to press those coaches and show them that they can trust you. And they definitely trust Peyton, but I just don't think this was a good idea on his part to leave the team, even if it was just for one game.
That's valid.